how to make the most of your time. I study time management. I looked at all kinds of ways to approach this, and I'm almost amused by some of these people who are time management experts because they create these really elaborate systems that are so ironically time consuming just to use. I'm like, well, when do you live life? When do you ever go do anything? You're always like working your system. How do you ever go do anything? How do you enjoy anything? So I don't like those. Those are too much. So in my fashion of taking complex and trying to make it simple, this is kind of how I approach this topic. And hopefully there's something in here that will resonate and that you can apply even one piece of it to help you have better use of your time. So from an objective, we're going to talk about the importance of time, values and priorities of time, overcoming distractions, because we have lots of those, how to plan time. This gets into how to use a calendar, and then how decisions and routines help us with our time. This is super, super practical. And I've been fortunate to have some learners say, hey, I tried this one thing and it really was a game changer. One of the things that is common that I hear as people move into retirement or early in retirement, they take a few months to kind of just relax and take it easy, which they've earned, and that's good. But then they realize that their schedule is so much different than it used to be. It used to be pretty structured, and then it's not. And then they're like, wait a minute, I have all this time, but I'm like nothing, I'm not getting anything done. I'm just kind of floundering around a little bit. And some of these things help kind of sort that out in that sense. All right. Let's start off. What's one of your favorite time-saving tricks, secrets, or hacks that you use? What's something you use that you think you found to work for you that we could learn from? Just one thing. Just unmute yourself and tell us.
Google Calendar and reminders.
Calendar and reminders. Okay. Good.
And my Apple Watch.
Okay, good.
Has like a little, we have to be selective over, otherwise you can end up with too many reminders.
It's going off all the time. Right. Okay.
I agree with the calendars.
Using the calendars. Okay. Yeah.
And I do a morning kind of time check-in and then afternoon, and I don't have more than 3 things on a daily list.
Okay. You limit it to 3. Is that what you said?
Yes, I limit it to 3 main.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
This is Joe, and I have a terrible one that I no longer can use. I do not fall behind. When we change the clocks,
Yeah.
spring and fall behind, I don't turn it. It runs an hour fast during the fall, right? In the winter. So I have to think that that one clock is an hour fast, and it works. It really works. It gets me moving. If I don't stop to think about it. But now they've changed the rules, so I gotta come up. I'm hoping you will give me great ideas.
Yes, right. Yeah.
One of the things that I do is I watch the news when I wake up in the morning for an hour and a half, and I don't watch it for the rest of the day, because if you turn it on, it's repeating. It's just repeating the exact same thing. They're saying the exact same thing. So if you watch it early, then you don't have to spend the rest of the day watching the news.
I gotcha. That's good.
But the time change, what I do is that night, instead of waiting until the next day, say along about 9 o'clock, I'll switch all my clocks to 10 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
And so that way, when I get up the next day, I don't have to worry about, and it helps me not try to wonder, well, am I going backwards or forwards? My clocks is already set to where the time is supposed to be. Yeah. So that's a little trick for me.
All right. Good. Anybody else? Those are all good. I like them. All right. We'll give you some additional ones. So time is made up of lots of numbers. And I'm thankful for time. Can you imagine if we didn't have time, a unit of time? Like, let's assume just like birthdays. Like if we didn't have months, like if it was just 365 days in 1 year, like everybody was just like, I was born in 1955. What was your birthday? 210. like the 210th day of that year, that would be your birthday. Wouldn't that be awful if a unit was that big? It would be awful. It's kind of fun to have the 12 months and the different days, and then we have seasons and all that. So there's lots of different numbers, but this one is the one that resonates the most with me. It's the number of hours in a week, 24 times 7. It's the number of hours I have gifted every week that I'm alive to either use, abuse, lose, or confuse. I mean, it's just, what am I going to do with it, right? Some of it I need to sleep. I know that. Some of it I need to rest. Some of it I need to be productive. But every week I could kind of evaluate, how did I do with my gift of 168 hours? And I get to reset it every month or every week rather, and keep doing it. So my goal is to just get better at using these hours every week so that life is full and I have no regrets of how that time was spent. So that's kind of the motivation as I think about how to use this time. I picked 4 categories to kind of address a strategy to do this, to become kind of a time management expert. And expert's a strong word, but we're all a work in progress and we're all learning as we go. But the first thing I want to start off with is clarifying values and priorities, because this is unique to every single person. And I want to help you think about that. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about distractions, because distractions, bless you. Distractions absolutely just suck time away from us and steal time away from us, and we never get it back. And there's lots of distractions. So we'll talk about how to do that. Several of you mentioned using calendars, and I think some people are good at calendars and some are not. And it's a really great tool to really help us make good use of our hours. And then decision making, which seems like a small thing, but it's one of those compounding elements that just ends up taking up a lot of time if we are not careful. So let's get into clarifying values and priorities. Like I said, every one of us is different, and our values and priorities change from year to year, day to day, even throughout the day. But if you don't know what your values and priorities are, you then end up living out somebody else's values and priorities, because you don't have a mechanism to be able to say yes to some things and no to other things. Sadly, a lot of our career when we were younger, we were helping other people fulfill their values and priorities. They told us what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and we did it. Well, you move into retirement, now you're like, wait a minute, now I get to decide this stuff? Yep. You get to have your own values and your own priorities. I mean, we should have been doing it all along, but at least when you're retired, you don't have somebody telling you to do. The problem is you say, well, all these things are important. Well, if everything's important, then nothing's important. The whole concept of priority is that something has a value over another, meaning that it trumps it in certain times. Doesn't mean it's always more important. It just means at that time it's more important. So priorities have a time frame to them as well. So even throughout the day, you may say, I want, Sanai said she wants to watch the news in the morning. So, okay, that's what she does in the morning, right? News is not important the rest of the day because she's already watched it. She's like, no, I'm not going to go. It doesn't make any sense to go watch it again. The replay of it, I've already watched it. So, but she's not going to let something else interfere with her watching it in the morning, because that's when she does that. So that's how priorities work. And they change from day to day and hour to hour sometimes. So really being clear what your values and priorities are right now is most important, so you can best use your 160 hours, because there's just not enough time to do everything. We can't do everything. We have to prioritize. And when you have a clear value and prioritization on things, it gives you the power and the clarity to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. So let me give you an example. Let's say it's very important to you that you get up and you go for a 15-minute walk every morning at 9 o'clock. And that's it's such a priority. You put it in your calendar, you make an appointment with yourself and you put it in your calendar. And then you're going to do that every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But you get a call from your friend who wants to have coffee with you at 9 o'clock on Monday. And you say, wait a minute, I really need to catch up with this friend. But wait, 9 o'clock is when I go for my walk. What do you do? If you haven't cleared your values and priorities for that time slot, then you end up getting washed around by whatever opportunity comes along, and your time tends to get eaten up by somebody else's value and priority. So what are the options? You can say, nope, I've got something then. I could meet with you at 10, or I could meet with you at Tuesday at 9 because I have time available then, right? That's an option. And you stay true to yourself and you get your walk in and you're good. Or you could say, hey, why don't you come with me? I'm going for a walk. I could do both. You could walk with me if you want. You could join me. Or you could say, well, no, my friend's more important than my walk. And you flip your priorities then. Now, what the misunderstanding is that if we don't say yes at 9 o'clock on Monday, then our friend's not a party. That is not true. It just means at 9 o'clock, something is has a greater priority than your friend. Your friend can still be a priority at 10 o'clock or Tuesday. So that's how these work, right? Some people are good at this, some people are not good at it. And the clearer you are in your values and priorities, the better you get. So, we know when we were younger, we didn't think sleep and rest was important. As we get older, we know it's very, very important to our health. Exercise was a little easier when we were younger. It's harder when we're older, but we need to do more of it from a mobility and strength standpoint as we get older. So we got to prioritize that. Every important relationship takes time. It doesn't do well if you put it on autopilot. Certain friends, some of you are still working. You have to make that a priority. Some of you have hobbies, or you travel, entertainment, all these things are things that could be a priority. All right, any thoughts, questions, or comments on this piece here? And I lead with this because it's so personalized and unique to each one of us. And until you set this, really doesn't matter what, you don't have a game plan really to how to use your time. You're kind of the mercy of what everybody else throws at you. All right. Again, once you have this clear and maybe even in a calendared format, that even adds more clarity to it. Then when other people that you live with or around you try to dip into that value priority, you say, no, I can't do that then. I've got something planned. I can do it this time, right? You have the courage and the confidence to kind of stick to your values and priorities. Otherwise, that coffee date with that friend disrupts your whole workout and you stop the pattern of working out and you never get to walking. So you get unhealthy because you hung out with a friend one time. Little things add up, right? All right, next thing, distractions. So you set your values and priorities, constantly evaluate those because they can always be changing, but be clear what they are so that you know what to say yes to, what to say no to. And then we have all these distractions. Our phone is a distraction. Our friends, we got friends that are just kind of bored and they like to just like take up your time. Everybody's got one of those friends, right? Like you hate to answer the phone. It's like, oh gosh, this is a long conversation. And they're not going to say anything. They're just going to talk and talk and talk. Some of you have family members that are distractions. They're, for some reason, some of them need real genuine care and attention, and you're a caregiver, that's fine. But some family members I've got in my family, they'll just take and take and take. They're just kind of, and if we're not careful, we enable them to keep taking. So we have to kind of identify them as a distraction and kind of have some boundaries that kind of protect that. TV, that's a big one, right? I mean, my goodness, we used to have to plan our schedule around when our show was on to go watch it like Tuesday nights at 8. But now you can binge watch a whole series of a show at one time because they just kind of roll them all at once. And there's just an endless amount of options to watch TV streaming now. Social media, it is designed to be a distraction. It is set up to create habits to make you feel like you're missing out if you do not go spend time on your social media. So that becomes a distraction. Pets. Okay, we've got 2 dogs, but pets are a distraction too. I mean, like we can only be gone from the house so long because you got to come back and you got to take the pets out, right? I mean, every time you add another pet to the family, it's cute and all, but it's another mouth to feed, another body to keep clean. It takes time. They don't care for themselves. You got to feed them and clean up after them. All right. Housework, that can be a distraction. Some people use that as a distraction. Like they don't want to do something important. So I'm going to clean the house. This is my way to kind of not do what I'm supposed to be doing, but I feel like I'm doing something. So I'm going to do housework. Laziness, boredom. Good. Somebody wants closed caption. Let's see. Emma, can you turn that on? Here, I got it. Oh, I got a request, I guess. I don't know if Emma, can you turn that on for us? Here we go. Somebody want to close
Yes, Kevin,
caption.
it's done.
You got it. Thank you. Yeah. If that closed caption's anywhere on your screen, you don't want it, you guys can drag it around on your screen to get it out of the way if you don't want it. Overwhelmed, lack of purpose, lack of focus. Sometimes you're just like overwhelmed. It's just like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to do nothing. I'm just going to just lay out here. You know what FOMO is? Anybody know what FOMO is?
Fear of missing out.
Yes, fear of missing out. This is a real thing. And there's 2 sides to it. There's the person who thinks, okay, I do not want to miss any opportunity. So anything that comes my way, I'm going to say yes. because I would hate to miss it and then wish I'd gone. So I'm going to say yes to everything. But it doesn't really line up always with their values and priorities. They're just doing whatever comes at them. So they're off on somebody else's plan again. And then there's the other person who's not going to say yes to anything because they're afraid if they say yes to something today, then something better is going to come along tomorrow. And because if there's a conflict, they don't want to miss. So they end up doing nothing. They're just like waiting for the best thing to come along and it never comes. So they don't do anything. These are both distractions. Would anybody be bold enough to tell us kind of what their big distraction is that they deal with? We all have them. We all really have them.
Lack of focus, Kevin, for me.
Lack of focus. Okay. Like too many ideas can be a distraction, right? Too many options becomes a distraction, right? We know science tells us you give people too many options, they don't make any choices at all. They're just overwhelmed. It's just too much. And when you're creative and you have all kinds of ideas, you bounce from one thing to the other, one thing to the other, and you're like, oh, I'm not getting any traction on anything. I'm just keep going. Anybody else?
Since I retired, there's less structure to my days. So without that structure, that can be a real distraction.
Yeah.
I found that partitioning off my days in certain sections has helped a lot more to keep me focused. So
Right.
focus is a big help, and having too much time on my hands now without structure is a distraction.
Yeah, right. I've had people in this class say, well, GetSetUp is my distraction. I just do GetSetUp classes all the time. They just keep taking classes like that. I exclude that one from the distraction list since we're in GetSetUp family community here. So notice that in the word distraction is the word traction. And those of you that live where it snows, you guys know about snow tires and traction and how you do that, right? When you think about anything in life, you have to start it, you have to maintain it, and then you have to finish it. That's kind of the life cycle of any project, anything you do in life. What takes the most energy and the most effort is the starting of something, right? Even your car, right? When you're stopped at a light, it takes more gas to get up to speed than it does once you're up to speed and keep going. It takes a lot more because you're starting from zero and you're moving a whole big heavy thing up to speed. Same with our own life. Every time we get distracted, we lose traction. We have to stop what we're doing and then we have to start all over again. And that's the danger of being distracted is this all these starts and stops. And it's really tiring. Where on the other hand, if you would block things out like Deborah's suggesting, or you say, I'm going to work on this for this time, and then I'm going to work on this for this time, you get up to speed and you get into the groove of it and you get going and you get some momentum. When you have traction, you also get momentum. Once you have momentum, then it's easy to finish things because momentum keeps carrying you on. You don't have to keep starting up the energy to do it. So that's an interesting way to look at distractions. When you are distracted by something, you're surrendering traction on something you're working on for something else, and you have to start all over again. It's really counterproductive. So it's really important to kind of identify what your distractions is, right? I mean, you can't deal with something until you identify what it is. First step is kind of admit this is a distraction for me. If you don't know what it is, ask somebody who lives with you. They can tell you like, oh, it's this, it's that. I notice you all the time. You're always doing this, and you're not paying attention. You're not present because you're distracted with this or that. And then for some of them, once you've identified them, you can just avoid them if you have the willpower to do it. But sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's got such a control on you that you need some help removing it. You need to get it out. There's people I've known that have gotten rid of their TV. They've gone from a smartphone back down to kind of a dumb phone because they were just so consumed with their phones that they had to get something that just would do phone calls now, not everything else. So there's different levels of radical eradication of distractions, but you have to come be honest with yourself. But unless you deal with your distractions, these distractions just keep stealing minutes and hours and days and weeks and years from you. That's how it works. So it seems simple, but this is a lot of time is about compounding, little things adding up to be turned into a big thing. So that's distractions. Any other thoughts on distractions?
I find that when you have a start and a stop time for a task, you're more likely to finish that task in that time frame. You're more efficient with yourself.
Yes, if you carve out that time just for that task, right? Yeah.
And you usually know by experience how much time you're going to need to do that if you're not distracted. So it keeps you on track.
Yeah. And if you're distracted, it could take a lot more time, right? Yeah.
And also, I
So-
know
so-
for myself, oh, I'm sorry, even if I use time blocking, if I'm not prepared, if I don't have an idea of what I'm going to do and am prepared for it, I still spend a lot of time during that time block trying to figure out where I'm going to start.
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's kind of like what I just put in the chat, no structure and no schedule. So, you know, and if I do say the day before, okay, I'm going to do such and such a thing. And so when I get up that day, I'm distracted about something or the other. And then the next thing you know, my day is gone and I haven't done practically anything. So
Right.
yeah, and I've been trying to work on there, but so far I'm not doing so well, but I'm going to keep trying.
All right. Good.
Something just occurred to me about structure as well. It seems like when you live a structured life like that, the time that you give yourself for time off to relax seems so much more appreciated.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You feel like you've been good usage. You've done well with your time, and you've kind of earned your time to take care of yourself and to do what you want to do. Versus, I'm still stressed because I haven't got anything done, and now I'm taking time for myself, and like I shouldn't be doing this because I wasn't good with the time that I was supposed to be doing the other thing. Yeah. Yeah. Our conscious can get us in there. So that's probably a good indication you've done well with your time if you can enjoy that time off. If you can't, then you're probably not using your time very well. That's a good point. All right, let's talk about scheduling. So I am a big proponent of using two different calendars. Now, nuance this any way you want, but understand the why of what I'm talking about here. So scheduling is very powerful. Scheduling assigns priority of time and place to events and activities is what scheduling does. And I use two different calendars. One is what I call an event calendar, and that's your typical calendar of when these classes are. I've got to teach them, what meetings I've got to go to. If you got to go to a doctor's appointment, you've got to show up somewhere at a certain time. That's my event calendar, right? Somebody's birthday, I put that on there. Okay, and then there's this other part of life of the things that we do when we're not at those events. I call them tasks. We do these other tasks. And tasks are the accumulation of tasks turn into projects or things we're working on, or preparation for an event, or follow-up from an event, or things like that. But everything else we do is a task. And tasks traditionally just get put on a list without any specificity, meaning they don't have a time relevance to them. And so I use what I call a task calendar. And on my task calendar, every time I think of something I need to do, I put it on a task calendar. So it's a to-do list that's on a calendar of when I'm going to do it. Now you notice I've got the word do in here in two different usage. So an event calendar, that's when you have to show up. On the task calendar, that's when you're going to do the item. You're going to do the task. Typically tasks are just written down. You don't really say when you're going to do them. You just say, well, I got to get this done. And it just kind of stays on the list. And you may or may not get it done, and you might check it off, you might not. But if you can't put a date that you're going to do it, I don't put times on it. I just put dates of when I'm going to do the task. And then it's very visual and it's very fluid because I don't always get them done, but I can see what I've gotten done and what I haven't gotten done. So let me kind of show you what this looks like. Let's see, let's go. This is kind of a picture of my event calendar. Like, let's say it's a Google Calendar, right? I use several Google Calendars, and I use another program called, what is it called? Fantastical, I think that's what it's called. It's an Apple product that allows me to bring all my calendars into one, and it really makes it easy. But this shows, right? This is a typical event calendar. I've got different meetings and different appointments I got to be at, classes I got to teach, and there's space between them. And what do you do in those spaces between? That's when I do my tasks, right? So you don't want to fill this up. You don't want to be in a meeting all the time, because if you're doing a meeting, you don't have time to do the work. You ever hear that? Like, when we're meeting, we're not working. We're just kind of talking about working. But when you're in between your meetings, that's when you can do the work. So you need to have time to do the work. So that's an event calendar. The other calendar, my task calendar, I use a program in Notion. I use Notion for this. You can use any other calendar you want. And you say, Kevin, why do you use two calendars? I use two calendars because I don't want to, I would be overwhelmed if they were all in one calendar. I would not want to get out of bed because there'd be so many things on the calendar, both tasks and events. I'd be like, that's too much. I don't want to do it. But the other thing that's nice about this is I can drag these things around from day to day. So let me show you my current, tell me if you can see this. I'm going to change my screen here. Oh, what happened over here? That's okay. So here we go. Let's go to desktop. All right. Can you see this? I can't see you guys now. I'm hiding you. Can you see it says task calendar at the top left?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is two apps that are open. This is my two calendars open right now. On the top of the screen is Notion, which is my task calendar. On the bottom of my screen is Fantastical. So the event calendar on the bottom has, you know, when my classes are, what I'm teaching, what I'm doing, all of that, right? And then up here is my task calendar, and I have things there. So here we are on the 18th, and I've got some things I need to do here, and I haven't done these yet, but they're there. What's nice about this is notice I've got some things in the past that I have not done. So that means they really weren't that big a priority yet. But what's nice about this is I can grab this item, I can grab this and I can move this down to another day. So let's move this down here to Wednesday. Let's take this and move this to Tuesday next week. I'm going to do that then. And I can move this down here and kind of get these all in one day here. Get this down there. Move this to Monday. See how I can move them around? And if I get it done, I just click the, I did this one, so I'm going to click this done. And it just comes off my calendar. It goes somewhere else and I can see all the things I've done if I want to pull that up in a different view. But this is how I can see my tasks. Now, the other thing that's nice is I'll grab content like out of like this one, there's multiple things in here that I'm working on. So I've put some notes in this one. I got some things from other places, emails and stuff that I've got. I put the details of what's in here because when I go to this, I want to have all my information there. I don't want to have to go look up an email, what's involved with that. Same with this one. I've got some content in here. I copied this out of the email so I can just find the information right there, right? So that's how I do my tasks. No times, just they're on a day. And I put those on there, okay? So that's how that works. Let's go back to slides. All right, any questions on that? You guys get the idea of what I'm talking about with the task calendar and event calendar? Does
I'm
anybody
sorry,
do
can
anything?
you just,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just, I'm trying to, okay, I understood that you said you had an app, you have multiple event calendars and one task calendar. And then you said something about Fantastical combining
Yeah.
multiple
So-
calendars. I actually just opened another screen now so I could see some on your live studio and
Okay.
on the Zoom, because then I want to look a little closer at what I didn't follow when you had multiple things on the screen. When you said you had like you were moving things if the task didn't get done that day, you move it. I understand about looking at multiple calendars because I share my calendar with other people, so I understand multiple calendars. But then I didn't follow how the task calendar, whether that was being viewed with the day of the week calendar. Maybe that's my question.
Yeah. So, I mean, you do it any way you want. I recommend having a separate calendar altogether for your task calendar. It's a calendar, but
Okay.
it's a separate calendar and it only has tasks on there that are assigned to a day, and you can move those around and you can mark them as done. But I keep them separate because it's a lot to put on one calendar. If you have tasks and events all in one calendar, it gets really messy. It's really not clear.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I was doing that. I had like one line at 8 a.m. with all my things I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
So you're saying, the task calendar is just like a calendar, except you're just putting tasks on there. You can put it any time if you want, if you don't have a time specific. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, you got it. And one of the reasons I don't put the time on there is because it makes it easy to move it from day to day. It's not, the time doesn't really matter. It's like, I want to get this done during this day. When I have time, I want to get this done. I'm not putting so much pressure on myself that I got to plan the minute of it. Right.
So you don't overlay them, you look at them kind of separately?
Always separate, yeah. Because I mean, again, this is your personal preference. Some of you want to see it, and Google Calendars, you can stack up all the calendars you want, toggle them on and off while you want. You can do that, but I like them separate because it's a focus thing again. Because what's the tendency if you start looking at a calendar with all kinds of stuff, you start looking at other things. You're like, oh, I think I need to do that, or I want to do that, or that looks more fun, or I want to do that. If I just look at the tasks I'm supposed to do that day, it keeps me focused on those, and there's good value, I think, in that rather than trying to see everything at once. Plus, my other reasoning is when I'm at an event, when I'm at that calendared event, I cannot be doing the tasks also. And when I'm not at an event, I don't need to be looking at an event calendar. I've got time to work on the tasks. So
I see.
it
Okay.
helps me separate those so that I can focus better on them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also use colors. So when I have
Yeah.
events on a day,
Yeah. Right.
I have like a doctor's appointment is going to be red. I know I'm going to have to show up for
Yeah.
that. But if
Yeah.
there's certain things that I have different colors depending upon whether it's a maybe or a must or don't
Yeah.
forget.
Kind
So,
of your
but I also,
prioritization a little bit. Oh.
but now when you have, so it also jumps out at me. So if I have to make an appointment, I know whether I can possibly move something or not. But when you have your tasks, I mean, I have a project, I use project notes. So I have like these projects I'm working on. How do you, when you have your task, how do you put I'll just say the implementation steps in there? You know what I mean? Say the task is to, I don't know, empty the garage. I just made that up.
Yeah.
How do you have like maybe a separate folder, a separate thing that ties in with that task?
Well,
on your calendar?
the nice thing about Notion is I can put notes in here. So like over
Notion.
here, yeah. So in Notion calendar at the top here, build a Linux computer. Okay. So that's the name of the tasks. I assign the date to do it on March 19th. I could prioritize if I wanted to. I've got a couple bullet points here of things that I picked up from one of my students we were talking about this, and I'm just doing this just as a side thing, but I want to turn this into a to-do list. Okay. So say maybe the steps of this is download Ventoy. This is a program, Linux, get USB stick. Maybe one more is, I got to figure out which computer I'm going to use for this. So now I've added some steps in here to this task. This is all part of the task now. And I can put whatever I want in here. I can add links and images and videos, anything I want down here, more lists. And all of that is part of this build a Linux computer. Is that what you mean? Having kind of sub information in there, sub steps in there?
Yeah. Like kind of having a project and you have all these,
yeah,
subtests. So that is that, you said Notion?
Yeah. I teach a class on Notion.
Oh, that's an app or a special
calendar?
Yeah. Notion is an app. I don't think she understands.
Oh.
Yeah, I apologize. It's just another app. I do a lot in it. It has a calendar feature, and that's part of what I use it for.
Okay, so you have 2 Apple calendars, and then you use Notion as an app for your projects. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I have lots of calendars. I'm going to put these in so you can see they're separate programs. I just had them laid out on the screen here so I could see them better. Okay, so now.
But you have I guess the general idea is you have an event calendar, then you have a task calendar, and then you use Notion to.
That's my task calendar is in
Notion. Project. That Notion's inside, connected somehow to your task calendar?
The task calendar is inside Notion. It's part of Notion.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Notion does a lot of things. Calendaring is one of the things it does.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you could use any calendar. You could use Microsoft Outlook calendars. You could use Google calendars. You could put them all in one calendar if you want, if you don't have too much stuff. I just have too much stuff to put into one, so it gets too confusing. And
Yeah, mine is like that too.
yeah, but yeah,
'Cause I've
no,
shared calendars with other people,
yeah,
so I
right,
can turn them on and off depending upon whether I want it all aggregated in one screen.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Check out my Notion class. You might find that interesting.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the event or task calendar piece? Obviously, there's different levels of you implementing this to make it work for you, but I think that the big idea of every task that you think of, I'm not afraid to put it on my task calendar because I want a place to put it and then forget about it and then have a safe place to get to it and deal with it. And what it does is rather than just put it on a list of things to do someday, I have to say, this is enough of a priority for me to put it on my task calendar. I'm going to do it in the next couple of weeks because I put it on my task calendar. That helps you kind of add some priority to that task. Otherwise, if you say like, hey, I want to go to Niagara Falls someday, that doesn't go in your task calendar. That goes in your dream list, your bucket list. That's a different list. But if you're planning a trip to Niagara Falls, now you've got some tasks that you need to do. You need to check airfares. You need to figure out where you're going to stay and, what to pack. And then that goes in your task calendar as separate tasks or one big task that you're going to work on over time.
So Kevin, I assume
Yeah.
that some of your tasks, as they become routines, fall off of your task calendar, and now they're a routine. I know you said you're going to talk about that later.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something. Most routines become when something becomes a routine, you don't have to think about it, right? It becomes automatic in a sense. I don't need to be reminded really to do the routine things. So we'll get to the routine piece, but you're right. If it's something that is routine, you don't have to, once you do it enough times, it becomes a habit and then you don't have to think about it. You're going to do it automatically. But if it's not, you probably have to remind yourself and prioritize it as a task so that it gets done.
Yeah, that's what I've had to do in the past. As I'm trying to develop those new routines, I have to have them as tasks.
Yes. You have to start out as tasks because you have to train yourself to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This needs to become a routine. All right. So, you decide how specific you want to get in scheduling your time, if it's monthly, weekly, daily, hourly. But I will tell you this, the more you plan ahead, and give yourself grace, it doesn't mean it's set in stone. The more you plan ahead something, the more peace of mind you have about the future. What causes a lot of anxiety for us is the unknown. And if we're waiting for other people to plan all of our time, that's really a stressful situation. So I love, scheduling things months in advance to do. And I'm pretty much the kind of guy, if I plan it, I'm going to do it. My wife's not so much that. She's she'll put it on the calendar, but doesn't mean she's going to do it. And, we wrestle with that a little bit sometimes. She took a little while to realize if I put it down, I'm pretty much going to make it happen. But do, whatever your personality is, put stuff out there so that you have something to look forward to. It gives you some hope to look forward to things when things are rough and challenging too. Without things to look forward to, the days get long. All right. Somebody mentioned time blocking. This is another strategy to really carve out time in your event calendar. It's taking a task and saying, this is so important and I can't get it done maybe really quickly or in a short amount of time. It's going to take many, many hours to do it. I'm going to make an appointment with myself on my event calendar and block out time to do this. And that's all I'm going to work on. It doesn't work if you try to do 2 or 3 other things. Sometimes it helps to get a change of scenery too. Like I'll go away somewhere sometimes and only work on that project. Let's assume you do this with exercise. If you've not been exercising and you think I'm going to work out 3 times a week and you don't schedule it, it just doesn't happen. That's New Year's resolutions every year for people. Like they don't make a plan to do it. They just say, I want to do it. It's a wish list. Wishes don't get done. Plans get done. So time blocking would be, I'm going to work out at 7 to 7:30 every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so you block it out in your calendar and then nothing gets to take that space over. You just kind of block it out and that happens. And you're protected. You don't have to think about it. That's when you're doing it. That's an example of time blocking. All right, decision making. Let's talk about this a minute. Every decision we make takes time. So it burns into that 168 hours every week, every decision we make. And we make a lot of decisions. Life's made up of lots and lots of decisions. And if you can simplify those daily decisions, those seemingly mundane decisions, but decisions nonetheless that take time, then we get, in essence, some time back. And as you do that, those routines create habits and you get to do them automatically. A way to build that up is to track your progress, kind of motivate yourself to keep doing it, try to streak yourself into doing it so much that it becomes a habit. Let me give you an example of how this works. If you ever, this happened to me many times when I was working in an office years ago, and you would drive the same way to work every day. Some days I'd get about halfway to the office and it dawned on me that I was halfway to work. And I'm like, how did I get here? I don't remember really even driving. My mind was on something else, but I'd gotten so accustomed and so it had become such a habit of how to drive to work that I didn't have to think about it. I wasn't constantly thinking, should I turn left or right here? Which way do I go? Do I stop at a light or do I run through the red light? I mean, it's all a habit, natural, just doing it. I was safe. I just wasn't focused on that. I was able to free my mind to think about something else because the driving part of getting to work was such a habit. In essence, you're kind of multiplying your time in a way by doing that. And if I had to think about which way to go to work every day, I wouldn't have that time to think about something else on the way to work. So I would lose that time. So that's kind of how this works. That's the power of kind of simplifying this decision making. So what does this look like practically? There's some things decisions we make every day. Like we put clothes on every day. Like there's no surprise you're gonna have to wear something tomorrow and the day after and the day after. And what some people have done to themselves, they've created such a wardrobe option that they just stand at their dresser or their closet and think, what am I going to wear? What am I going to wear? And every day they play the same game and it just takes time. Other people, they have minimized their wardrobe down to the essence and very simple things. And so they don't have to think about it. Uniforms kind of make it real easy. My GetSetUp, I just put on a GetSetUp t-shirt or collared shirt. I just got to find a clean one and I'm good to go. I don't have to think about if Joe's going to like my red or green shirt or if my scarf's going to match what my shirt is. I just put on one of these shirts and I'm good. It's really nice. I don't have to spend time thinking about what to wear when I teach. What we eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I mean, it probably happened maybe to you today or yesterday. You stood at the refrigerator and said, what are we going to eat? And it's every day you do that, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. Think about how much time is wasted versus knowing you have a meal plan, you already have the food, you just have to heat it up or you've already prepared it or you get to prepare it and it's all ready to go. That's a great feeling. You have to worry about it. So meal planning helps cut down on decision making. That's why fast food works for people. It's not healthy for them, but it gives them some time back because they only can pick the 5 or 6 things on the menu and they bring it out and they give it to you and they've already shopped it, prepped it and given it to you. You just drive through and take it. So plan your meals, but don't when you don't plan, we make bad choices and the bad choices add up and we have health problems. So this is planning ahead to make good choices so that you're healthy. Exercise is the same thing. How many people just wish that they're going to exercise? I hope I get up in the morning and go for a walk, but then they get up like, I don't know where my running shoes are. I don't know where my shorts are. I don't know where my hoodie is. I can't go. But if they would have laid out their clothes the night before and planned ahead, then when they wake up, they get out of bed, put them on, go out the door, they're off and going. Cuts down the decision making. Even our entertainment. How many times have you said, hey, let's watch a movie? And then you're like, okay, you pick it. You spend 20 minutes looking at trailers and you finally pick a movie and you start watching it. 20 minutes into it, you look at each other, this is awful. So you wasted 40 minutes because you couldn't make a good decision in the moment. So Kevin, how do you even fix that? So what I do is as I'm browsing and, letting, they push recommended shows and movies to you all the time. If you see something you're interested in, mark it as on your list of interested things. So when you go to pick something, you go to the things you've already marked as interesting and you have a shorter list to pick from. Or when somebody recommends a movie or show, write it down and mark that and go pull from that list. Don't just start with the whole complete library and think you're going to figure out what the best movie or show is. All right. Anything on decisions, simplifying decisions? We have great classes on living with more with less, minimalism and cutting back. A lot of the thing that's a common thing, right? As we get older, we try to cut back. We got too much stuff, so we try to cut back. And the less you have, the less you have to maintain. And the less you have to maintain, the less decisions you have to make.
Well, Kevin, I want to say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say this. I really appreciate this class because as far as wasting time, I mean, the things that you bring out is so true. But I mean, it never even crossed my mind that, the things that the time that you can waste. And I really like what you were saying about driving to work. If you have to think about, driving to work, you know, you don't have time to think about anything else. But once it becomes a routine, then you can think about something else. And I
Mhm.
did something the other night that you just mentioned, what to listen to or to watch on TV. And you're right. And I do a lot of streaming. And so I'm looking and looking and looking. And then when I do finally find something, and then I'll say, oh, I don't like this, or either I'll fall asleep
Right.
and then time is wasted. So night before last, I made a list and I said, I'm gonna follow this list. So
Yeah.
I just say, this is a wonderful class. It gives you a lot to think about. And everything you said is so true. It's like you're looking at me inside my house.
It's common among all of us for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's good.
I was
Leslie?
going to say,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to share two things. When I was going to the office, I had, I wear like a blazer and well, anyway, it was just, business casual type dress. I decided I'm only buying black pants and black blazer, and all
Mhm.
these things will be wash and wear. I will not buy
Mhm.
anything that needs to be dry cleaned.
Right.
I
Right.
saved so much time
Yeah.
and, selecting. I just changed my jewelry and my tops, and it worked
Right.
like a charm. And then the
Yeah.
second thing I want to share is during the pandemic, I became very organized about my food shopping because I
Mhm.
didn't want to go to the store that much. I usually go to Whole Foods, but
Yeah.
I fine-tuned a grocery list, and it minimized the amount of time I was in the store. I only bought what I really needed, and I also lost weight, and my whole family became healthier.
Yeah. Good for you. And it just was a little bit of planning, right? A little bit of thinking ahead and planning. And it's counterintuitive thinking, well, I don't have time to plan it, but the time that you waste is far greater than the planning time it takes. It's good.
Yes.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
So it really, I would say, saved money, time, was more efficient, and ended up being more healthy for everybody.
Healthy. Yeah. Right. All kinds of wins in that. That's good. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Kevin, there's
Yeah.
also a book on Amazon. It's really tiny and it's called Habit Stacking. And it talks about, if you're trying to make a big change, just do a little thing. Like today, you do one little thing, and tomorrow, two little things. And I'm very reward motivated. And so I don't like to bike. But if I do my stationary bike while I'm reading, I call it biking and booking, then I'm more, it's like I cannot read that book unless I'm on that bike.
Yeah.
So if I stick to that, then I get something accomplished I need to do while I'm doing something I want to do.
Yeah, one of those concepts, like you said in that example, you take something you don't really like to do and you mix it with something you kind of like to do. And if you can do them at the same time safely, like she's doing, she's not out riding the bike in the street, she's on a stationary bike, then you're more likely to do, it helps you stay motivated to do things you don't want to do. That's a good example. Yeah. Good, good. Yeah, she put that book in the chat if you guys are interested in that, habit stacking. All right, anybody else on that?
Well, I'd like to mention that what you're almost talking about is the Steve Jobs dress style.
Yeah.
He wore the same turtleneck top or something for several, but I think he probably had a dozen of them.
Right, right.
The other thing was, by laying out the night before your exercise wardrobe that you want to wear. When you get up, it's on a special chair. It's ready to go, and you're up. You're out. Same thing about laying out your clothes the night before, what you're going to wear for work or during the day. I mean, those are some saving hints that really work well.
They do.
So, I even have I like your idea of calling one thing task and the other events. I don't do that, but I reserve one day out of the week to clean the kitchen, one day out of the week to clean the bedrooms, etc.
Yeah. So you kind of time block those.
Calendar that I follow.
That's good.
That's what's going to get done. But I like the layout idea. Thank you.
Right. Good. Excellent.
Kevin, these classes are really helpful. Like they have a class like decluttering.
Mhm.
This class. There are so many classes on GetSetUp that is really helpful, you know, in our lives. You know how to take care of yourself, your heart,
Yeah,
so forth and so on. So
yeah.
GetSetUp is amazing.
Well, that's nice of you to say. We try hard to do that, and we've got some great guides and some great learners like you guys. So thanks for being a part of the community. It's good. All right, I got a few more things for you here.
Kevin, can I make a brief comment?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I was just going to say a couple of decades ago, I worked for a large corporation and they sent me to a time management course. It was like 1 or 2 days. I came out with a leather bound time management booklet with a crossbody strap. And I had, all these index sections. And I just think we're very lucky now because we have technology
Yeah,
to help us organize,
right,
which, then it was pen, paper, and
right.
notebook. Thank you.
Yeah, those things are interesting because like they sold the company that one system and said we're going to teach all of our employees this one system, right? And we'll give you the resources to do it, but you guys got to do it. Yeah. I mean, take what I'm giving you and take the pieces that work and don't, and tailor it to be you. Because I know we're all different and we all have different things going on, but there's little helpful things in there as we go along that you can use, which is good. Even going to bed and getting up, that's another thing. People waste a lot of time in that, like, oh, I'm going to bed, and 2 hours later they haven't gotten in bed yet, and then they're short on sleep. Like, have a routine, make it easy on your body. Our minds need to sleep, we need rest to recover and restore, and our bodies need to reset every night. And caffeine and sugar and media and blue light and all that can keep our body stimulated. We're almost tricking our mind. Our mind's thinking, wait a minute, what do you want me to fall asleep, or do you want me to kind of stay alert because you're throwing all these stimulants at me? So having a routine for that. I know in the morning, I don't know what time I'm going to get up every morning. I rarely use an alarm clock, but I know when I get up, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go make some coffee and an English muffin. And I know that's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm going to start my day. And I do that every day. And I don't get up, I don't lay in bed and go, oh gosh, what am I going to do today? This is what gets me up. And I know my wife, as soon as she wakes up, she goes, are you going to make coffee? And I joke, and sometimes like, no, not today. I'm going to skip today. No, every day I'm going to make coffee. That's what I do. So having that routine really helps add clarity again to the process of that. I mean, today I got up at 5, talking about pets. One of the dogs that's not usually in our room was in our room last night, and it kept me up a little bit more. And I'm the kind of person, when I wake up enough that I start thinking of things, I won't go back to sleep. My mind engages. I got to get up and get going. So I got up real early this morning and got going. That's fine. I'll get my sleep when I can, right? All right. That's the decision-making thing. I think we've walked through all 4 of these. Okay, good. All right. Well, we have used up our time, right? Thank you guys for sharing what you've learned.